Whoops. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity, your recovery-focused podcast with your host, Keegan. And, let's see. Sorry, my script kind of messed up there. So, today we are joined once again by the Cartographer of Shadows, Dr. Chad Scott. Chad Scott is a therapist, a liver transplant survivor, and the award-winning author of Beyond the Darkness, Transformative Journeys Through Dark Tourism. He spent his life and career exploring dark tourism, visiting places like Auschwitz, Ground Zero, and ancient cemeteries. Not for the thrill, but for the therapy. Last time we spoke, we touched on the rhyme of history and epigenetics, but today I want to go a little bit deeper into the soul of these places and how they can actually help us. So, Chad, if these sites are hallowed ground, do you think it's possible that our own personal traumas can serve as a sacred space within ourselves?
Absolutely, without a doubt. By the way, thanks for having me on again. It's good to see you again, Keegan.
Of course, it's good to
Yeah,
have you on.
yeah, absolutely. I think all of us, when we talk about Jungian psychology,
Hmm.
so Jung believed that, we all carry around the shadow, and I fully believe that too.
Yep.
And in the shadow are things that, may have been traumas in our past, big stressors, these major life events, our insecurities, all kind of the negative things are our shadow, and they follow us around.
Hmm.
And we really don't, they stay with us unless we bring those shadows into our consciousness. And when we go to dark tourism spots, we can, a mirror emerges and we see little pieces of ourselves in those places.
Hmm.
And because of that, and maybe because of the energy that's in those places and things like that, it starts to illuminate that shadow within us, and it brings them into our consciousness. And when that happens, we can, integrate those in and put them to bed, put them to rest, and live our lives with that awareness, and that really helps us to be effective human beings.
Ooh, okay. So whenever you say integrating shadow, does that mean you're not just looking at it one time and going like, oh yeah, that's part of me. Ignore it, right? You're saying like, let's do something about it?
Right. I mean, we can, read a book and be like, "Oh, that's me," or the endless scrolling we can do on Facebook and things, and you might get some of those self help type people, and they like, "Oh, that," like Jordan Peterson, or yeah, there's a million of them.
Hmm.
Brene Brown,
Yeah.
Anyway, so you get people like that, and like, "Oh, that resonates with me."
Hmm.
Relationship things, "Oh, that resonates with me,"
Hmm.
but until you really um absorb them and really, and I think dark tourism spots, because they are something that really penetrates a certain part of our brain, those experiences really stay with us.
Hmm.
And when that happens, it's not something we just like, oh, that's in our consciousness and then it's gone. It stays there,
Hmm.
and we can really do something about it when that happens.
Okay. So what do you think it is about dark tourism and those certain spots that really like get to us, like you were saying, because it's just a place that it has some history to it, right? Like
Mhm.
here's one question. Have you been to a place that had a dark history and you felt it without knowing what the history was behind it?
Well, interesting you should say that. I was just in I was doing a presentation down at the Glore Psychiatric Museum, which, if you have never been there, it's such an awesome museum, because it tells the history of um, State Lunatic Asylum number 2. It's about an hour north of Kansas City,
Ooh, okay.
and it has this long storied history.
Mm.
They even have a morgue in there that,
Ooh.
where they say, bring your loved one in the clothes that you want them buried in, because a lot of people go there and they die.
Ugh.
So, and then it also gives the broader history of mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and it talks about the archaic times, and then how, treatment has progressed over the years.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, when I was down there giving that presentation, I went to a town over called Atchison, Kansas,
Okay.
and that is, I wanted to go there because Amelia Earhart, her birthplace was there and where she grew up, and there's also Amelia Earhart Museum. I'm a pilot, so I love that kind of stuff. Amelia Earhart's one of my idols. I actually have a picture of her, just over here, a big picture of Amelia.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was there, and the last time I was there, I only spent the night, and I was driving through the town just kind of to check it out, and I wanted to go at least see where Amelia Earhart was born, even though the building was closed. But when I was driving around, that town was so creepy and spooky. There, it had this, kind of this. I don't know why. It was like I was driving through a horror movie. The horror movie that really sticks out to me is Scream. It almost reminded me of the movie Scream. Just driving around that town, there was a lady walking with a lantern, and there was a big college party. I'm assuming it was a college party just in somebody's front lawn. And it was just so bizarre. And it had this like spooky haze, and the trees and the houses were kind of old. And it's like, I always wanted to go back to that. And, but when I came back home, I started researching it, and like, that's known as one of the spookiest towns in all of America. And it was just that vibe that made me research that. And like, holy cow, that like my intuition was absolutely right. So when I went back there, there's also a house called the Sally House.
Okay.
And that's been on a lot of the ghost shows, and it's known as one of the most, and some people say it's the most haunted house in America. So after I was done touring the Amelia Earhart house, this this is just a few weeks ago, and I toured the Amelia Earhart house, and I Googled real quick if there was any tours of the Sally House, and sure enough, there was one in like 15 minutes. So I signed up for this tour, and I get there, and it's a self-guided tour, and I'm the only one on this tour. So that means my dad was with, but he didn't come with me on the tour, so he dropped me off. So my dad dropped me off at the Sally House. They give me a code to go into the Sally House, and it's a self-guided tour. So I'm in the Sally House by myself for an hour, and it was creepy. It was really creepy. There's a room with, I would say there's 100 dolls in there. And, so I just sat on the floor, and there's this little toy piano, and I was playing the toy piano, and just, and I was saying, like, if anybody's in here, can you, hit a piano key or move a doll? And, and I did that in all the different rooms. And, I didn't experience anything, but the lore of it is, I go into the kitchen, and they have this table with these operating instruments, but apparently the story behind the house is this little girl named Sally had an appendicitis, and her parents brought her. It must have been a doctor's house back then, and and this is around the turn of the century, 1800 or 1900, around 1900, and she dies, and they believe that she has haunted this house, and there has been hauntings, people living there ever since. And there's all those people had experienced things, and it talked about, in the various rooms they had little posters of what happened in that room and what the lore is in that room, and go up on the steps, and they say this is where this is the last. So the last person that lived there was about 15-20 years ago, and apparently this guy was almost pushed down the steps, and he's there like, this is the last, too many things have happened, and now we almost got killed, getting pushed down the steps, like, we're moving out. And that was the last person to ever live there.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you spent a whole hour in there by yourself?
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Yeah. Well, and even a few months ago, I mentioned this on the last time I was on your podcast, but I spent the night in Lizzie Borden's room in Fall River, Massachusetts, and that's got quite the lore too. And so I slept in Lizzie's bed, and I was in that house for a couple hours by myself, and I tried to conjure some spirits, but I've literally never experienced anything. I've been in several haunted houses, and there was one time in Gettysburg where I had I don't even know what I'm not a ghost hunter, but the thing that really skips through the radio frequencies really fast, and they say you can talk, and it'll if there's a spirit around, it'll come through the radio station skipping real fast, and I said my name is Chad, and I heard back Chad, real. So I don't, but it's like, did I just hear that? Did I did my brain play a trick on me? So that was the closest thing that I ever experienced when I
Okay.
was at a haunted site.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I find it really interesting that you've been to all these haunted places or dark places and you haven't really experienced too much while you're there in the form of the supernatural, like trying to spook you, but you've actually gotten the exact opposite. You've got a lot of healing from it.
Yeah.
So, one of my questions is first, a little bit of a side tangent. What do you think happened to Amelia Earhart?
I think she just crashed in the ocean.
Mm,
Yeah,
damn.
yeah, I don't. I mean, what's kind of cool is the museum. They have a museum
Hmm.
also at the airport, which is a great. I mean, again, if you're in that area, the Amelia Earhart Museum is amazing,
Mm.
and they have like 6 different, plausible scenarios on what had happened.
Uh-huh.
Did the Japanese kidnap her because it was very close to World War II, and
Hmm.
um, you know, gosh, what else? Crashing in the ocean, surviving on an island, and yeah, there's
Hmm.
about 6 different scenarios. But
Oh man.
my hunch, just what my gut says is that she probably just crashed in the ocean and
Yeah.
ran out of fuel. They were trying to find her, the ships, and
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Kind of like is a little bit of Occam's razor, I guess. The simplest explanation is probably the one to go with.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. So and that's what I tend to do. I'm a social scientist, so I really
Uh-huh.
look at data and what the most likely probability is, and the most likely probability is that, but certainly could be
Hmm.
something else for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you get any kind of reflection on you and your piloting experience while visiting that museum and kind of reflecting on her fate?
Yeah, oh, that's a good question. Gosh, I would say not really. I think I'm in awe at because the pilots nowadays compared
Hmm.
to what she had, it's night and day difference.
Oh yeah.
We the navigation. I mean, I have an iPad that
Hmm.
shows me exactly where to go. I mean, she had a guy, I believe his name is Peter Noonan, that was with her as
Hmm.
the navigator,
Hmm.
and and he's navigating by the stars and stuff. And I have an iPad. You know, I also have instruments that I can use that are
Uh-huh.
much better than what they had. But I
Hmm.
also have an iPad that shows me exactly where to go, shows me the other airplanes in the air. I mean, flying so nowadays
Hmm.
is probably easier than driving a car through a big
Huh.
city. It really is. It really is. Once you learn to fly, it's simple.
Oh man, I can totally imagine that because I mean the first couple of times I had to drive in the Dallas and Fort Worth area, I'm not from here and I was like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would believe that.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think I always talk about comfort zones, and
Hmm.
you can see how Amelia, because it talks about how she was with being a little kid. I mean, she made her own little roller coaster when she was like 9 years old, that from the roof onto the ground, and
Uh-huh.
so she was just an adventurous little kid, and and
Hmm.
she just kept progressing, and I think that's what it takes is, and that, if I had a reflection, that was the reflection, is I saw parallels with Amelia Earhart and how she just had that sense of adventure, and I really have. I mean, I don't know that I have Amelia Earhart's sense of adventure, but I certainly have a sense of adventure that,
Yeah.
that, yeah, I
Yeah.
saw a little bit of myself in Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I
Yeah.
think that there's some really cool stuff in there too, because I mean, you went to go see your role model in a sense,
Yeah.
and at the same time, you saw that there was more to you well, more of her in you than what you may have first thought. And
Hmm.
at the same time, you're able to just have this other experience just in a creepy town that you didn't
Yeah.
really understand was that kind of creepy. And you're pushing your own comfort zone at the same time unknowingly. So that is pretty
Yeah.
adventurous.
Yeah. Well, even going in the Sally house was, it was like, okay, I know I'm by myself, and you know, and like learning that this might be the most haunted house in the United States, if not the world,
Hmm.
and I'm in there by myself, going through, like I wasn't sure what to expect, and but once I was in there for maybe 15-20 minutes and saw the whole house, and then I could walk around it with very little anxiety. But when you
Hmm.
first, so that's what I mean is stepping outside of your comfort zone little by little,
Hmm.
leads to big, another interesting kind of fun fact
Mhm.
is the farthest I've ever flown was to St. Joseph, Missouri, which
Huh.
is where I gave that presentation, which is only like 15 minutes away from where Amelia Earhart's place was.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
Huh.
so it's kind of
Yeah, you hit like
weird.
two,
Yeah, a little
uh,
parallel.
yeah, a couple of milestones right next to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Yep,
That's really cool.
yep.
And so one of the things that I'm kind of curious about is like, what do you think dark tourism does for the person that doesn't realize that they're doing it? Because like nowadays we have what is it called? Like it's disaster tourism in a sense,
Hmm,
to where people
hmm.
like watching TikToks or whatever of like all the bad stuff in the world going on, you know? And so it's like watching the atrocities happen in real time as opposed to visiting them after the fact, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I think that I mean there's a big can of worms just like in that simple question.
uh-huh.
So I always say it's what's in your heart. So
Okay.
if you go to a dark, so when I go to dark places, I
Mm-hmm.
really try to go in with a lot of reverence, a lot of empathy, a lot of intention for what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do that, and I don't make it about myself, I don't go in. I believe dark tourism spots are very healing, just as
Mm-hmm.
healing as going to a religious site.
Yeah.
And I've been to Jerusalem, I've been to the Vatican, I've been to several places that are very
Mm-hmm.
religious, and I get a lot of the same reflections, if not even deeper reflections, when you reflect on other people's suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and so because of that, dark tourism I believe is very very healing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go in there with a sensationalistic attitude, like, "Oh, I want to get off on the suffering of other people," kind of like, you watch a horror movie and you're like, "Oh, that guy just got his head chopped off." you know, if you go into a place where actual tragedy happened with that attitude, you're
Mm-hmm.
you're not only not going to get that healing or any benefit from it,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually, I mean, not only is that disgraceful, to
Mm-hmm.
the memories of those people that suffered, but it's also, I think, harmful to yourself and your ability to empathize with other people's suffering. And
Mm-hmm.
but I think a lot of people like that might not care. But I think people that you're talking, I'm guessing about, is people that are just kind of like going into places without a whole lot of intention, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily sensationalistic intentions,
Yeah.
and not necessarily intentions like I do with reverence and empathy. They're just kind of going in with an open mind. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I started. I think a lot of people start in dark tourism that way.
Uh-huh.
And I just started adding to my experiences, and I had a lot of positive experiences, and I
Mm-hmm.
tried to stay away from the sensationalism.
Yeah.
And I think when you do that over time, you certainly can get a great benefit. And sometimes you go to a place, for example, the Paris catacombs I went through, and when I went in there,
Uh-huh.
um, I went in just kind of like, oh my gosh, I've heard about this place. This is like, I didn't even know what I was. I certainly didn't go in with a lot of reverence and empathy.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of went in with an open mind, like, I just need to experience this.
Yeah.
And seeing 6 million skeletons, out there, lining these tunnels, you'd think it'd be just so morbid and scary, and it
Mm-hmm.
and it really wasn't. It was more like, this person had a name, this person had loved ones, this person had a job. Those types of things are the
Mm-hmm.
reflections I got. And it becomes a memento mori. Remember, you must die.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that as at the forefront of your thinking,
Mm-hmm.
so I come out the other side with that memento mori, seeing like, I'm going to be one of these people in not too many years. In a blink of an eye, I'm going to be buried in a place.
Yeah.
And you leave there and you just love deeper, and you want to experience more, and you live with more intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of bones, have you been to the Bone Cathedral?
No, no. Yeah,
You
I
know
know
which one I'm
exactly.
talking about,
I
right?
do. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
Sedelic something.
Let's see real quick. Bone Cathedral,
I
because
think it's in the Czech Republic.
uh, yeah. I'm not going to pronounce this properly.
Sedlic.
Sedlik
Yeah.
Ossuary.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a really cool one to go visit. And I
Yeah.
mean, it even is there to be a church of sorts. So it's like
Yeah.
that's weird that well, not weird. It's just really cool how they would tie those two together because it's speaking on what you're speaking on, but like they started it way back when, you know.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I was certainly wasn't the one that invented this stuff. I mean, this stuff has been going back millennium,
Uh-huh.
several millenniums, where
Mm-hmm.
people made pilgrimages to go to the Mount Vesuvius, to the Battle of Marathon, to I
Mm-hmm.
mean, throughout time, they've
Yeah.
people, since we've been honoring the dead, people have been doing basically dark tourism.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because it's kind of like if we go where a lot of people have died, we're almost walking into the other realm itself,
Yeah,
in a sense.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, so you started your dark tourism whenever you were having to deal with your liver scare, correct?
No, I would say I
Is
so I,
after?
it was before.
Okay, okay.
So I think I have long. So what the first time I went to the Paris catacombs was in 2013, I think.
Okay.
And so I had my liver disease. I mean, it's only been, you know,
Mm,
for 4 years since I was diagnosed, I think.
mm,
So I've been doing dark tourism for a long time, but
yeah.
I really started doing dark tourism after I got diagnosed,
Uh-huh.
because I think I didn't consciously um, figure this out until later,
Mm-hmm.
until after my when I was into my recovery from my liver transplant, that I
Mm-hmm.
really realized, like, oh, these dark tourism places were so healing to me. I could see how they impacted me earlier,
Uh-huh.
and so I started really seeking them out when I was going through my transplant. But
Mm-hmm.
I would consider myself, I didn't know what the term dark tourism was before then, but I would have. I mean, I went. When I was married, we went to a lot of cemeteries, and and she went with me through the catacombs the first time, and
Uh-huh.
so we did a lot of dark tourism. I talk about, actually, in my book, I talk about the first time where I considered um, what I did as dark tourism,
Mm-hmm.
where I was in Sloppy Joe's bar in Key West, Florida, and
Okay.
that's Ernest Hemingway's favorite bar, was Sloppy Joe's. So it's a really famous bar. So some guy, some hippie dude with a straw hat, Hawaiian shirt and flip flops, comes over to us and starts chatting us up, and we're just talking to him, like, well, what are the cool things to do around town? He's like, you got to check out our cemetery. And I'm like, what? Check out your cemetery? And yeah, like, he's the above ground tombs, and then
Mm-hmm.
but the quirky sayings that are the epitaphs, devoted fan of Hulu and Glacies, remember, like, I told you I was sick, and those types of things. And there's chickens running around the cemetery, it was an experience.
Yeah.
So after that, we kind of made a conscious effort to basically go to a cemetery, no matter, everywhere we went.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah.
Here's a question: have you been to a cemetery that had a loved one in it that you didn't realize was there until you were there, or after the fact,
Like a personal loved one of mine. Hmm.
or an ancestor, even like
Um,
someone that you were like, "Huh, I didn't realize I was related to that person."
no, no. Have you?
Yeah, actually.
Really? Oh, let's
Yeah.
hear that story.
So it was, I think it was actually right after, well, hang on, it may have been a little bit before we spoke. I don't remember exactly the time frame, but it was sometime last year. I was driving for work and there was a sign on the side of the road that said the Kilo Massacre Memorial. And I was like, oh, wait, hang on. My grandfather has told me about this. He's sent us like some messages in Facebook, talking about it. And I looked at it and I was like, that's interesting because like his last name is Kilo. And so I was like, huh, okay, well, didn't know exactly what it was. But so after I finished up what I was doing for work on the way back, I decided, you know what, like how often am I 2.5 hours away from where I live? So I'm going to go check it out because that's what I just do. I see a cemetery, I go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so driving towards it was a really weird feeling because it was both like my body knew that something was there,
Oh,
and
interesting.
yeah, but I was like, why am I starting to get anxious? Like I was like, I love cemeteries so why is this one like freaking me out a little bit?
Yeah.
And it was like off in the, if I didn't have GPS, I would have been like, where the hell is this, you know? Because it's like tall trees all around. There were barely any houses out there. And you took this one dirt road, and then you had to take this other one, and then finally you get to it, and it's all just fenced off, and it's this really cool like sandstone memorial of sorts. And
Oh,
so I
interesting.
was like, okay. So I stood outside and I just walked up to the fence, and I was like, hey, I don't know if I'm related to any of y'all here, but like, is it okay if I enter? And then right as I was saying that, a crow called, and I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, I was like, I'll take that as a yes. So I walked on in, and it felt like it was like static electricity all over, and it felt
Wow.
like cobwebs were like going and brushing up against me, and I was just like, this is weird. And
Interesting.
so walked around, checked out this site and all the graves and everything, and it's a really sad story, kind of, you know, like some of the settlers were on Native American land, and
Mm.
they had made a pact with like, hey, we're going to get off your land, just let us finish up our crops, and we'll be out of here. And some other people didn't know that they had made that pact and went and decided to kill him. And
Oh,
so,
geez.
yeah,
Wow.
and so whenever I got back, I was like, hey, I reached out to my grandpa, and I was like, were we actually related to any of them? And he was like, let me get back to you. And turns out we were. So
Wow.
I was like, huh. And it was the weirdest feeling, because like my body knew that something was up, and I can't
Yeah.
explain it because,
Yeah.
again, I love cemeteries. And so that one was, is really weird and really, really cool though.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, some of these things are just so meaningful, and
mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example. I had told this story on your last podcast, but I had heard a voice. The only voice I ever heard in my
Yeah.
head was not too long after I was at the Vatican,
Mm-hmm.
and I had felt like I had I'd kind of fallen out of religion. I grew up Catholic, and it
Mm-hmm.
was after Pope Francis had just gotten elected,
Mm.
and and I felt a connection with religion again,
Uh-huh.
and then I hear this voice in my head, which I never have heard a voice in my head before that, and I haven't heard a voice in my head since then. And this voice said, "Chad, slow down. There's a car coming at you." And within 20 seconds, there literally was a car in my lane flying at me, and I was white
Uh-huh.
knuckling it because I was like so freaked out from that voice. And I thought, like, the very first thought I had was like, Jesus, God,
Mm-hmm.
Vatican, like this, like. And then I also, as being a therapist, is like, is this mental illness, or like I had all these thoughts within that 20 seconds, but I slowed way down,
Uh-huh.
and had I not slowed down, it would have 100% been a head-on collision. I
Ugh.
guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's just some ways we can't describe or explain those kinds of things away, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it kind of makes me want to ask, like, back at the very beginning of this conversation, you'd mentioned the shadow of sorts. And
Hmm.
I don't think a lot of us realize that we carry certain shadows with us until we're either faced with them or something unexplainable kind of happens like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If shadows are what keep me in business. I mean, I'm a therapist, and that's what I deal with all day, every day, is people's shadows.
Uh-huh.
And and we try to get them to come out and to acknowledge, and once that's the first thing, is acknowledging that, okay, I have this shadow, that especially when you have personality disorders, it takes a
Hmm.
lot of work to get these shadows out in front of a person.
Yeah.
And once it's out in front of you, then you can do something about it, and that's
Hmm.
what therapy is all about. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah.
so do you know the original word or meaning for demon?
Oh, you know what? I think I should know this, but I don't off the top of my head. No.
So originally it was guiding spirit, you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it wasn't necessarily good, it wasn't necessarily bad. And with Christianity coming along, they decided to make it all bad. And in my opinion, it's a guiding spirit, you know. They don't
Mhm.
have to be bad. And so one of my questions is, do you think someone's personal demons are to be ignored, or do you think that they're just another word for shadow or something else along those lines?
Boy, I don't think I've literally ever thought of that, but I think we all have that shadow, and it whether it's you know um You know, I guess on the other side of a demon, like I think of angels and guardian
Mm-hmm.
angels and things like that. Again, I don't know if I necessarily fully believe, but it's, you know, it's something like, you know, it's kind of like ghosts. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily fully believe in ghosts, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't not believe in ghosts. I don't fully
Yeah.
believe in angels. I don't
Yeah.
not, you know, same thing with demons. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
but you know, I think if we have them around us, you know, yeah, we should acknowledge them and see them, and that's what I've been doing. I just read this about Charles Dickens. Is
Mm-hmm.
he had a kind of a similar belief as me? Is like he really wanted to find out. I really want to find out. That's why I go to these places. I mean, if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't believe at all in ghosts, I wouldn't be going to, you know, these haunted houses. You
Yeah.
know, but I don't necessarily believe in them either. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going there, and I'm open to experiences,
Mm.
and I do get experiences, and in those experiences, you know, and there is an energy, whether that energy is created in my own mind
Mm-hmm.
or whether that energy is created from spirits or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
and I literally it will go to these places until I find out.
Okay.
And even after I find out, I'll still go. You know.
So here's a question. Do you think that, well, earlier you had said that you were going to wind up in the ground yourself one day. We all will. We're all human. We're all going to die. So
Mhm.
do you think another part of you is subconsciously going to these places trying to figure out how you could pass along your message or help someone else out in the future after your death?
Yeah. I again, I don't know if I've thought of it that way, but for sure, I do. Um, I think when we go to these places, we
Mm-hmm.
get, you know, all these reflections, and you know, and some of those reflections are very existential,
Yeah.
and you know, and again, there's a very strong overlap. You know, probably you know, a 90% overlap between dark tourism sites where truly dark things have happened
Mm-hmm.
and religious sites, and you get a lot of those same energy and reflections and things. And I think so when people go to the religious sites, they have those same types of, you know, things where it's like, you know, what can I pass on? You know, I mean, you ask all those types of big questions, and the
Mm-hmm.
same thing when you go to dark tourism sites.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, what was one of the things that shocked you the most about one of your reflections that you've come across so far?
Oh man, I've had so many. I think the guilt I felt at Hiroshima wasn't necessarily expected.
Ooh,
You know, going
yeah.
through as an American,
Mm,
you know, I don't think I told this on your last one. So when you go into the Peace Memorial Museum,
mm,
they have this long mural, and it's this beautiful ancient. It's a black and white mural, and it's this beautiful ancient city. You know, the architecture is just amazing. And
mm,
at the end of that, they have a like a school picture being taken, and it was
mm.
right around the time of the bomb dropped, if not the same day. I don't know, but
Oh,
so when I was going through there, I was going through these with these kids that were wearing school uniforms, all
mm,
Japanese kids. I was one of the only, you know, white Caucasian people in the
mm,
building that I saw,
mm,
and so I'm going through with these young kids, probably 12ish years old,
mm.
and they were looking at this class, and it almost looked like a mirror image. It was so haunting and chilling.
Oof.
And on the wall right there is
Mm,
the clock is stopped at 8:15, which is the
mm,
time the bomb, Enola Gay dropped the bomb.
mm,
And then you walk into the next room, same exact mural, but
mm.
it's complete annihilation. No buildings are standing except for just a couple, and
Wow.
one of them is still the atomic bomb dome is still there. You can see it today, and that was one of the only buildings still standing. And then you go through that building, and it's just gut punch after gut punch after gut punch. I mean, there you hear
Ugh.
about the black rain, and so they didn't know about nuclear fallout. They didn't know what happened to them. So they're
Mm,
drinking. They're so thirsty from, you know, everything they had just gone through, and
uh-huh.
so they're drinking this black, literally black rain coming down from the sky,
Ugh.
and it was nuclear fallout. So almost
Ugh.
all of, you know, all them that drank the black rain, pretty much, you know, I can't say all, but
Yeah.
a lot of them ended up dying within months of cancer.
Oof.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah,
Yeah. That one would definitely be heavy. And
yeah.
I mean, that would also make me reflect on the other things that I may have had an impact on other people's lives without really knowing it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, that's heavy stuff. That
Well, and when you go through the narrative of as an American, we're told
mm-hmm,
that we had to do it. We had to drop this bomb because of the Bushido Code, which
mm-hmm,
is the Japanese warriors that like they're not going to stop fighting till the last person's dead. And but the intelligence that the top brass was getting was that Japan was on the verge of surrendering. They weren't quite there, but they were close.
yeah,
So Douglas MacArthur, the generals, they didn't want to drop the atomic bombs, but
mm,
we made the decision to do it, and not only do it once, but do it twice, and then they finally surrendered. But
yeah,
and that was absolutely civilian population. So you go through there and you see all these children's clothes. You see people, they have the steps of a bank in there, and on the
mm,
steps of a bank, they took these steps and brought them into the museum,
uh-huh,
and so there's these steps, cement steps in the bank, and there's a
mm-hmm,
shadow like imprinted from somebody who has just vaporized into the bank steps, and
yeah,
I mean, and it's just like that, turn after turn. It's
mm-hmm,
like the cruelty and
mm-hmm,
oh
yeah.
yeah.
I,
So anyway, you go through those places though. So this is the point though, and this is where it's healing. When I
okay.
left there, I was completely disorientated. I brought my son there too, and I think he felt
Mm-hmm,
very similar.
uh,
And it was like I had a hard time making sense of it. I knew I was angry. I had all these feelings. I felt sick. I felt like I didn't know. I mean, I just didn't know where. Out of all the places I've been, I didn't know where the dust was going to fall after this one,
oh yeah,
and it took some time. Some of these places take time for you to make sense of them.
yeah,
And when I did, it's like, I am going to be outspoken about any injustice that I see, about any cruelty, about, especially helping kids. And, that's what these places do.
mm-hmm,
And, so it's not only it's when I say it's healing, it's not healing in like a cellular level. It's healing on an existential level.
uh-huh,
And when you are more committed to helping society, that you get things in return. You just
yeah,
feel, healthier as a person
yeah.
spiritually.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. It almost sounds like it helped you find either not necessarily your voice, but another layer of your own voice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when people talk about meaning of life and your purpose and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
we always say like, oh, it's my wife, it's my friends, family,
Yeah.
whatever,
Uh-huh.
my job, my, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
God, you know,
Uh-huh.
so I would have told you something like that before.
Uh-huh.
So going through these places though,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it imprints in a completely different place than other experiences imprint.
Mm.
And you're doing a lot of limbic system imprinting. So
Mm-hmm.
your amygdalas and your hippocampus, and and those aren't just your typical everyday memories. That's like your I'm not sure how old you are, but when I mean, I'm sure you remember when 9/11 happened. I
Yep.
mean, like
Yep.
you remember where you were and all those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remembered
Third
when
grade.
I remembered when the Challenger crashed.
Mm-hmm.
I was in probably about fifth grade when the Challenger crashed,
Mm.
maybe a little younger. People remember when JFK was shot. Those types of
Mm-hmm.
things, they etch in a completely different part of your brain,
Yeah.
and they're not just normal memories. They're the So what happens is when you go through these places,
Mm-hmm.
it imprints on a different on a completely different place in your brain,
Huh.
and when you need them the most, when you need those memories of that place, they kind
Mm-hmm.
of come back. I feel like you're carrying a person's, the torch of their memory. You're
Ooh.
these people, when you go to these places and you honor them and you
Mm-hmm.
empathize, you step in their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and try to at least experience a little bit, just a titch of what they experience, because you'll never experience everything they experience, obviously, but
Nope.
just a titch of it, that really does impact you. And when that happens, that can really illuminate your not only your shadow, but also illuminate your purpose and meaning in life. So I can
Mm.
tell you without a doubt, my meaning of life is helping other people and loving my family and friends.
Ooh, man, I love that. And I mean, I think you hit a really good point too, because I think it's mostly Western society that's kind of like we have to have a purpose, we have to be productive at least with what we
Hmm.
do in our life, and it doesn't like whenever I hear your kind of purpose, it's not something that's like, oh, I have to help the capitalistic machine keep on
Yeah,
turning, you know?
100%, 100%. I think people that their meaning of life that is making money, get out there and go to some of these sites. And your meaning of life will change.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're living to keep up with the Joneses,
Hmm.
to have the nicer boat and the camper and go on these, whatever,
Yeah.
go shoot this, whatever animal, I mean, nothing
Hmm.
against hunting, but I
Trophy
mean,
hunting. Bleh.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if you just want to have the bigger antler than your buddy, I mean,
Nah.
hunting is okay, but when
Hmm.
you're, I think when you experience life beyond when you get outside of your comfort zone, because I think a lot of people that stay in their comfort zone, that is their meaning. It's have
Ooh.
who shoots the biggest buck, who
Uh-huh.
has the most money, who has the biggest boat. And, you know, fine and dandy, if, but you need to experience more to
Hmm.
know that that's what you really want, because I think if you really
Ooh.
experienced more, that it isn't what you would really want, most people.
Ooh. Okay. So, pardon this like mind image that I kind of got, but whenever you're talking about going outside of your comfort zone and stuff,
Yeah.
it's kind of like you're stepping into the shadow, right?
Hmm.
And in a sense, like every your comfort zone is your campfire, if you will. And so you have to go out to get more wood to kind of get your fire going a little bit brighter.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, yeah, I
So
agree with that completely. Yeah.
and I mean, it would make sense why a lot of people don't want to go out of the campfire because there's scary things in the dark. We never
Yeah.
know what's in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And I mean, it's just, it's really cool that going into shadows, stepping outside of the comfort zone can do that. And Memento Mori sounds like it's kind of like that too, because I read on Facebook the other day, whenever you change the perspective from it's in like one more day to it's one less day, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that actually hit. Uh
100%. That hits different. I mean, and that's
huh.
really what these places do.
Hmm.
It really makes you. I mean, that on a conscious level. I mean, yeah, we realize that the older we get, the less long we have to live and
Yeah.
whatever. But it's the years in your life and not the life, or it's the life in your years and not the years in your life, or whatever.
Yeah.
That saying. And I mean, and it
Hmm.
really is. And when you do this, you feel it.
Yeah. Um, Quick question, like whenever you think back to your liver scare and everything,
Hmm.
was that kind of one of those things that came to your mind too? Because like you said, consciously we all kind of know, or maybe subconsciously, it's like another day, yeah, sure, whatever. It's all tally marked off, you know. But like me and the wife had a bit of a scare today, and we had to go to
Hmm.
the ER.
Oh,
And
jeez.
so it was like, oh yeah, thankfully everything turned out way better than it could have been, you
Good,
know.
good.
But I mean, while we were sitting there just kind of waiting for everything, like all the weird, crazy stuff is flashing in my head, and it's like, oh shit, like, did I do everything right? Like, what if this is no, holy cow, and so it's just one of those like, why don't we have that kind of mindset of what can I do more with my life? What can I
Yeah.
do to help other people? Why does it all have to be self-centered? And do you think it's really just because of the wounds that we all experience at one point or another, and we just kind of carry with us? Do you think
Well,
people take pride in their wounds?
yeah. I mean, everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, my story, and this is sort of what my book is about. I mean, it's about going to
Uh-huh.
all these dark places, but it's really about how, I had a pretty normal life, and then I ended up getting these autoimmune diseases, and I failed seriously, terribly failed in coping with that, and I
Mm-hmm.
had so much anxiety, and my wife left me because of it, and
Mm-hmm.
and I absolutely failed as a human being in terms of being a husband, and um, Also, I would say that, when somebody's struggling, you probably should turn in instead of, so there's more to the story, but you
Yeah.
know but I will say that I did not do well,
Mm-hmm.
and I, maybe is partially because I was a therapist and, whatever, but I'm like, I can never let myself get to this place again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing a lot of adventuring, and I'd go to a lot of do a lot of like adventure tourism, and
Mm-hmm.
doing jumping out of airplanes, and you know doing these I took a venomous snake handling class and learned to scuba dive, but I also did a lot of dark tourism with this stuff. I mean, it
Uh-huh.
kind of itch that
Balanced out.
screams, yeah, scratch that same itch,
Uh-huh.
and so when I ended up getting liver disease, which should have been the darkest time of my life, I saw it as an adventure. I
Huh.
started, Marcus Aurelius said, "The obstacle is the way,"
Mm-hmm.
and and that's the these things that I did turned me into a Stoic, which is what Marcus Aurelius really, he was the quintessential Stoic,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think from my experiences, I learned that, so I saw my liver transplant as an adventure, to be honest. I was
Huh.
diagnosed for 9 months with liver cancer, which has a 5% survival rate. And
Yeah.
and I didn't let the statistics get to me. I never, yeah, you have some anxiety here and there, and like, what, how is my son going to be after I mean, I was sort of preparing to die.
Yeah.
I did not fear death. When I had my autoimmune diseases in the past, I feared death. I was up all night Googling, like, how, what can I do to, I was going to try and figure this out on a intellectual level, how to
Mm-hmm.
survive. That wasn't how I needed to survive. I had to find out how to survive on an emotional level. And
Ooh.
once I learned to survive on an emotional level, I had no problem. I mean, I got wheeled into
Huh.
the operating room for my transplant. Not 1 ounce of anxiety until they strapped my arms to the table. Then it
Oh.
got real, and then I asked for the anxiety pill that they offered earlier, and I said I told them no before, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man. Sorry. I'm just that's kind of funny. Just no anxiety until the arms are strapped. I was like, ah,
Right?
shit.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as they started strapping me down, I actually sprung back up. I'm like, okay, I'll take that pill now. Can I still get that? And they
Yeah.
did. And then I don't know what they gave me, but after they gave me that pill, within seconds, I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember a thing,
Oh
which is kind of
man.
a bummer because I wanted to experience it.
Oh yeah.
If I could have
You.
stayed awake for the surgery, I would have.
Oh. I mean, I've had my fair share of surgeries, and I'm glad I haven't been awake for a couple of them.
Yeah.
So.
I just don't want to be awake for a colonoscopy. That's the only thing I'm gonna get knocked out for.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So whenever you said you were trying to survive on an intellectual level versus the emotional level, what do you define as that difference?
So when I was, so I had a disease called vasculitis, inflammation of the blood vessels. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
know if it was a deadly type or a type that would pass. The
Mm-hmm.
deadly type is, it killed Harold Ramis from the Ghostbusters, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a deadly disorder.
Yeah.
Um, so in my mind, I, thought like, oh gosh, I probably have this type, and um,
Mm-hmm.
so I started reading the literature, the
Mm-hmm.
like I would be up at night, I'd get a random thought in the middle of the night, 3 in the morning, whatever in the morning, and I would be on my phone, which is the worst thing in the world to have right by you when you're going through something like this, because then you start researching, and I'm reading, like, well, as long as I just stay off of WebMD and those types, and I look at the actual, the literature that's published by, the academics that they're studying this stuff, then
Uh-huh.
it's like, okay, then I'm not doing that, but like
Mm-hmm.
I convinced myself that, and then I couldn't find any good scenarios. It's like, and then, my wife at the
Oh.
time was saying,
Uh-huh.
like, you're just looking for excuses to you're just looking for the bad stuff. I'm like, no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for the good stuff. And but I couldn't find any good stuff. I mean, it was
Uh-huh.
all bad stuff. And but you know fast forward is when
Uh-huh.
I went through all these dark tourism experiences, more dark tourism experiences, and
Mm-hmm.
and especially as had the liver disease, I more and more, because at first it was like, they didn't know if my disorder was bad enough to where I needed a transplant or not.
Mm-hmm.
It eventually did, um, but you know, the way I went through that was so different than the way I went through it, and I learned to be. I went through it as a stoic, where before I went through it as a complete wimp. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I think that's the difference, and I became so much more. I'm emotionally intelligent
Mm-hmm.
as a therapist,
Yeah.
but I wasn't emotionally intelligent fully integrated within myself. And I
Mm.
think my experiences allowed that. And once I had that, I became
Mm-hmm.
a stoic. Not the John Wayne, you know, I'm not, nothing bothers me, Pilgrim. I mean, I wasn't stuffing.
Yeah.
I was noticing and letting it go,
Mm-hmm.
and really reframing things appropriately, and
Mm-hmm.
it made all the difference in the world.
Okay. So it's interesting because, I spoke to Julian Bermudez not too long ago, and I was on his podcast doing like a free therapy session. And I was like, ah, shit, here we go. And it's one of those things that it was kind of revealed that like I've been thinking everything out ever since I was really little, what even
Hmm.
emotions, I was thinking it all through.
Yeah.
But it's hard to embody the emotions or acknowledge them and then just let them go and be on their merry way. Like I had to figure a way to survive the emotion, and that could be scary enough in its own right,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you were able to sit there and have that you were looking for the good, but all you found was just this bad stuff.
Hmm.
So, what would you say to that version of yourself if you had that time machine to go back and just like either knock some sense into them or give them a boost of confidence?
You know what? What's interesting is I wouldn't change a thing because I love, absolutely love who I have become. And
Ah,
had I not been that version of myself at that time, I wouldn't
uh-huh.
be the person I am today.
I
So
love that answer.
I wouldn't change anything.
Oh, I love that because it's just I mean that's recovery, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's the recovery mindset.
Yeah. And it takes a lot to be able to say that you weren't the best version of yourself back then and at the same time you're the best version of yourself now.
Yeah.
So, where do you think that you're going to be in a few more years with all the dark tourism and presenting your book and whatnot?
Day at a time, my man. No, I really don't know. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna keep writing. I'm gonna keep exploring. Next weekend I'm gonna be heading to Argentina, and I'm going
Whoa.
to, and the main reason I'm going to Argentina is they have what a lot of people believe is the world's, uh, I don't know if it's the most significant the most historic cemetery maybe in the world, or one of the
Huh.
most historic. I don't know. I mean, you're it's
Uh-huh.
apples to oranges and things, but it's one, it's where Eva Peron, Evita,
Oh,
is buried, and
okay.
and it's just amazing. I would, everybody should look at a video of this place. I mean, and I'm
Okay.
so excited to see it in person. Is
Uh-huh.
that it's just like you're walking through the mausoleums in there are unbelievably ornate, and it's just it's incredible, and it's almost like you're walking through city streets from an ancient time, and it's just it's beautiful.
Wow.
So, and then I'm going to Peru, to Machu Picchu. Yeah.
Ooh, that's going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
um, I do. It's a really weird question that just popped in my head that I
Sure.
remember reading off of Reddit a long time ago. But they were like, with how many people there are alive today and how many people there have ever been alive, where are all the cemeteries? And I was like, that's a good question. Do you have an answer to that?
Where are all the cemeteries?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of cemeteries. I mean, we're finding with Native American, like, kind of like your story,
Mm,
a lot of the Native American cemeteries, and I think there's like those all over Africa, especially, but
mm,
throughout the world. I mean, there's people buried everywhere,
yeah.
and you just don't know it. About
Mm,
20 miles from my house, there's a cemetery that was just found, and
huh.
like 10 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and it was a children's cemetery for
Yeah.
Finnish immigrants back
Mm.
from the late 1800s, early 1900s. They
Oh
were
wow.
buried there, and the cemetery was forgotten in time. and it was found again, and they went through with the sonar underground, so they were able to mark the graves, and
Oh man.
and they yeah, it's a
Huh.
place now that people can go,
Oh wow.
and it's in the middle of the forest.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's both like really cool and also really creepy.
Right,
Like,
right, yeah,
I don't know what it is, but anytime I'm at a like modern day cemetery and there's that baby land area, I'm like I'm staying away from that one. Like
yeah,
I don't know what it
yeah,
is, but I think it's because it's that innocence, that is gone too soon
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Lives just, yeah. Any
Mm,
life that's cut short, yeah.
yeah. And
Especially by tragedy, and you know, uh, oh, when I went to Africa,
mhm.
I mean, to see all these animals, it was just like unbelievable, to see the bio, like just the diverse,
Uh-huh.
but you see these little babies everywhere, but knowing the statistics, like only one of these, elephants, or
Oh.
two of these lion cubs are going to survive, and it's like,
Mm,
oh man, and
yeah.
it's horrible.
Yeah.
But
But
it's the circle of life,
yeah.
and
Yeah, and I think it's just humans like to assign meaning to everything,
yeah, yeah,
because animals, they just kind of go on and do their thing, and whatever that is that day, who knows?
yeah,
But we're
yeah,
the ones that kind of have to make meaning out of something, and I don't
yeah.
know why that is, but sometimes I think it just happens because it has to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's our frontal lobes. I think the more our frontal lobes are developed, the more meaning we attach to things.
Mm.
Your dog, I mean, like, if you died tomorrow and your dog would, my dog, my Dukers, he, if I was gone tomorrow, I mean, he would be mourning for a long time. I mean,
Mm.
I guarantee it. And, and he's so happy when I get home. And, so animals have meaning too.
Yeah.
And I think maybe when you get into the lesser primates and then to
Mm.
reptile, maybe there's less meaning that they attach to things, but
Uh.
but the primates especially, they attach a lot of meaning to things.
Yeah. What was it? Robin Williams was it Coco the gorilla?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Made her laugh after she lost her baby. So, yeah, man. Maybe it is just our brains. Maybe the problem was that we just have too big of a brain.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, yeah. We like attaching meaning to things for sure.
Yeah. Um, Real quick, we are near the end of this episode. So I want to see, do you think you would want to come back on after you do a little bit more adventuring and go visit Machu Picchu and all that other
Yeah,
Argentina
yeah.
stuff?
It's
Let us
always
know
fun
how.
to chat you up there, Keenan.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience with tonight?
Get out of that comfort zone. I've said this last time, but I'm going to say it again. Nothing grows in a comfort zone except anxiety, depression, and just crappy things. And they feel comfortable, but over time they get smaller and smaller, and pretty soon your comfort zone, you're not living your life anymore. And some people, their comfort zones are relatively big, but you're still
Mm-hmm.
in a comfort zone. So get out of that comfort zone,
Mm.
and that's why, when I was younger, getting out of my comfort zone was going to Florida. It was going to, you're in Atlanta, right? I mean,
Nope.
oh,
Texas.
oh, okay, yeah,
Yep.
that's right. You're by JFK's thing, yeah.
Yep.
So so they're go and then I started traveling with people in other continents, and
Mm-hmm.
and then I started going by myself, and now I'm going by myself to Africa and Argentina and Peru. I mean, and I never would have done that 10, 20 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like you just got to keep pushing that comfort zone. Don't do anything stupid that's going to get you killed, or at least that has a high probability of getting you killed. I mean, you don't might
Uh-huh.
not want to get in a submarine and go see the Titanic,
Yeah.
um, but you may want to go jump out of an airplane with a parachute. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
safe risk that gets the blood. You know, I always said I will never jump out of an airplane. When I got my pilot's license, like I will never, ever, ever, ever jump out of an airplane. I jumped out of an airplane.
Uh, I bet that was really, really fun too.
Oh, it's scary as hell. But once that chute opened,
Uh-huh.
and you started gliding down, it's like, oh my god, it was one of the most greatest experiences of my life, and I would do it again. Just and that's the thing is if you can scare yourself and it's a healthy scare, do it.
Uh, I guess that's why people love horror films so much, huh?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, uh, Dr. Chad Scott, it has been an honor and a pleasure having you on for a second time, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation as well.
Honor and a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And everyone out there, like he said, try to push your comfort zone, but try to love yourself. Love others if you can, but gotta love yourself first. And if you're having a mental health crisis, dial 988 to talk to someone. And if you don't want to talk to someone, you can always text 741-741. And if you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can dial the Trevor Project up in Canada. And with that being said, I think that's it. And we will see y'all in the next time. This has been Keegan. This has been Dr. Chad Scott. And we'll see y'all next time. Much
See you
love.
later.
Stan.
Bye.